Everybody look normal.
Uh,
Okay, welcome to the weekly call for the working group of Merge Request Report Widgets. That was an amazing first words for the live stream. Welcome everyone. Let's get on with the agenda. We have a little bit of an announcement. It's read only, but I have a question. So, Jin, do you want to read it?
sure. Yep. I attached the MR that Miranda created to support opening modals from our widgets, which is something that we needed for test summary. And I know the security widget, one of them needs it. Andre, do you want to go over your question?
Yes. So my question is whether I feel like this is going to be something that future authors will want and we'll need to have some guidance. So when looking through the design, I think it's important for designers to be aware that that's a possibility, right? That can affect the design of the widget themselves. So I feel like it would be a nice addition to the documentation. So if anybody wants to take that task, and once that thing is sorted out, and yeah.
I can take a stab at opening an MR for it. And then we can discuss more on that.
Yeah, sounds good. Fernando?
Sorry, I was just adding this as we're going along. I guess speaking on the behalf of Savas on the security widget, I think his ask was to have a method to emit a view event, and then he could hook into that event and open the modal, the existing modal that they have. Are there plans to have the modal design as part of this MR widget extension, meaning that the modal is bound by the rules and design spec of the widget extensions? Or do we have more freedom where we're emitting an event and we can just show whatever modal content we want in there? Because I think there's a difference there, if that makes sense. Just like right now, the widget extensions are bound by the rules that we design in the design spec, and all the extensions have to conform to that. Right now, the modal, at least for the security widget, shows vulnerability specific data. So I didn't know what your thoughts on were that. Were we trying to even standardize to the modal content, or can we just show what we want in there?
I'm guessing that the only two widgets that are using this is test summary and security. Is that right? I think
right now that sounds about right now. Yeah.
And I would assume that we would be able to support different like text, whatever, in that modal, because we are showing different data. So I don't think we would have to be restrained to keeping it to look the same, or, but I agree that we would have to like add some documentation of how to use those.
Yeah, I think that's a deeper discussion, isn't it? Because it's more of a philosophical, where until when do we want consistency? Because from the moment that they click a button on the widget, they now go to the context of security. And now, should it be consistent with the widget? Should it be consistent with the part of security application? I don't know the answer. I'm just throwing questions out there.
And I do want to, you bring up a really good point, because I want to remind everyone that I think the last meeting we brought this up, I forget which designer it was. He had mentioned that the goal with these widget extensions was to present data and not make them full-fledged apps. And by having this widget for vulnerabilities kind of open up and you could do things, I don't know if you could dismiss them or change the state, or the idea was that maybe another approach would be to not show too much data in the modal, and then maybe have a different workflow it takes to a dedicated page or something. That was just an idea that was kind of being floated, because it gets tricky when we start having a modal and it does a lot of complex operations that are specific to that context. And now it's kind of like an app within the widgets. Just a high level thought there that someone had brought up last time.
Yeah, I think from a scope of the working group, I think the modals are probably outside of the scope for now, because I don't think they were accounted for or thought about. And we probably need to have a longer conversation about what that experience should be at some point in the future. I have thoughts, but I think we need a future conversation.
Fernando, do you want to open up an issue maybe so that we could discuss, unless there's already one floating out there? But it would be nice to discuss it with the designers as well, or I can do that if that would be better.
I don't mind opening the issue. Just thing is, I'll probably bounce it back to you anyway, because I don't know the correct labels for, it sounds like it would be more of a design issue right now than it would be engineering. So,
Yeah,
I mean, up to you. If I can do it and pass it over to you, but honestly, I wouldn't have much in the issue because I don't know what to put into it or what direction you're thinking of taking it.
okay, let me open it then.
Yeah, and then add the label for the working group, Gina, please, so that we can all
Sure.
keep visibility of it. It sounds like a great discussion. Cool. So moving on then, if nobody has any other things on that point.
Sure. Sorry, I hate when I end up dominating the agenda here, but it's
fine.
relevant to the work. So
Yeah.
I have, okay, so before we had discussed, at this point, it might make sense because the security widgets are a little bit more interactive to introduce a feature flag specific to them so that we can allow ourselves to roll out the widget extensions without, I guess, license compliance and the security widget. So quick status update: license compliance and security widget are missing some backend pieces and some front-end functionality. So the security widget needs ability to have a modal, and license compliance is waiting on some backend work to wrap up this milestone. So I'm having some trouble. I have a MR up to feature flag out license compliance. And this is not a double stacked feature flag, meaning it's not like the widget extension feature flag plus the license compliance flag, because I was running into some weird edge cases where if one or the other isn't turned on, like I think we try to stay away from double nested feature flags. So what I did is I refactored it and extracted the show hide logic to be a dedicated feature flag just for license compliance. So there's just one flag for it, which made it a little bit easier. The problem I'm having is, and I might have to follow up with the QA team, but if anyone knows, we have two jobs. We have the package and QA FF enabled, feature flag enabled, and then disabled. The disabled job runs fine. It'll run the automation test with the feature flag disabled, but I think because we have some front-end automations for license compliance, when it's turned on, it's not showing, it's showing the widget extension, the unit, the automation is failing. So I don't know how to like flag that out or go around it. I'm looking at, if I could share my screen, Miranda looks like she had a MR merge recently that allows for a specific feature flag, but I pretty much took the approach she did and just stubbed out the, where's this, the spec file, okay. Why it's not jumping to it. Bear with me here, sorry. The stub, a stub feature flag's false, and that's still breaking the test. So I guess me bringing it up, I'm wondering if anyone has any thoughts. If not, I'll follow up with QA. I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell. If Phil was on the call, he probably had an answer for you. So it might be worth just pinging directly Miranda and Phil
Okay.
for support here. I could throw some ideas, but I would just be
guessing. All right, no worries. I figured I just surfed it in case someone knew, but I'll follow up with them.
Great.
Sure. So I guess Andre, you have the next one.
Okay. I think you can stop sharing the screen. Cool.
Oh,
so
sure.
The next point was something that you pinged us on Slack, Fernando, and I wanted to bring it up here to see what everybody thought. Having an alias for the working group, I feel like there are two kinds of aliases. One is Slack user groups, and the other is GitLab aliases. I don't know what to call it. Do we feel the need for it? I can totally see the way that it's easier for just quick broadcasted messages to all the owners of widgets, because sometimes we need to like do a quick check whether we're rolling out feature flags or we're rolling out a change or something. You might want to like quickly notify all the right people. So I think if I have to find an official owner for each widget, which we try to sort that out on that epic that I shared on Slack last week. But yeah, how does everyone feel? Objections, favor?
I thought about this some more after I pinged you, and it's tricky because like if we ping everyone in the Slack channel, there are a lot of people in there that are like between engineering managers, front end designers, engineers. Sometimes you only need to ping a design, you want the designers to know, all right, get feedback from them, or sometimes you just want the front end engineers who are working on this. So then I don't even know it. I didn't want to, I mean, it's almost like we kind of need two aliases, at least one for like, or three, maybe everyone, designers, engineers. So sometimes I just want to talk about implementation, not design. And sometimes I want to talk about design. And sometimes you want to ping everyone, but
Right.
And then, so I don't know if that's overkill to have like a bunch of different aliases.
I think if you're going to start creating aliases for each one of the combinations, it's going to be really complicated real fast. But that's why I was thinking the most urgent ones that we might be in a hurry to ping everyone are the people looking after the ones that are live. So the owners of the widgets, engineering wise, makes sense in case there's something in production happening, an incident or something. We need to have a quick way of pinging everyone. And you don't want to forget someone. So having that user group might be a good thing. Now, so my vote would be to start with the engineering and go from there.
Okay.
The second part is user groups on Slack are really slow to manage, really slow to update. So I have a request for over a week now to update the membership of one of my teams. And it takes a little while for the access request to be granted. So do take that with a grain of salt. I think they're a great idea, but in terms of implementation wise, I feel like we're still going to have a list of owners, which would be beneficial to have that somewhere in the documentation. Maybe I can update the documentation of the working group in the handbook to say, here's a table of widgets that are online, and here are the owners. And then once the working group dissolves, I'll just put that in the handbook that it's not inside of the working group. Somewhere I'll figure it out, and then we can use that list as a quick ping people. I don't know, but I'm all for it. Setting up a user group on Slack and go from there.
This just reminded me of the table that we have in the handbook, and Andre, you basically just said that. So I was just wondering if we could rely, instead of breaking up further, if we could rely on the roles there and then, just notify those that you need. And maybe we need to update that table, like you were saying.
Yeah, I've done something in the past for the misused terms, which I can add a section to that page of like a quick Slack, but is it okay to leak the Slack handles on the handbook? Because it would basically be a copy paste thing. It would be something you expand, have all the ats there, but it feels like we're, I don't know, it feels uneasy. I think the Slack user group is just the easiest way for the quick ping for engineering wise. For the rest, I would defer to the table like you're suggesting. Yeah, because I'm concerned more about incident management. And we can add a section to this page saying that for incident purposes, you can feel free to tag the Slack user group X that will decide. For any incident manager coming to this page, they know exactly who to ping instead of having to go through this list and picking. But for us, I feel like we can rely on the table, which reminds me that I need to update a membership for Tomislav. He's left the company, so I have to find someone else to replace him. Sounds good. All right. Cool. So this was more a question for Savas. I don't know if anyone else knows about it, but Fernando, you were involved in that. You pinged. That's why this came from the Slack user group. Do you know if that answer will suffice or?
Let me take a quick look at it now.
You can do it async. It's just I wanted to bring attention to it. Just make sure that we're moving forward.
I'm just looking at it now. I'm not sure.
I'll ping him on Slack. No worries.
Okay.
Move to Slack. You can move to your point, Fernando, the last one.
Sure. I just wanted to do a quick review. I saw the ping in the working group Slack channel that we added a column for feature flags. Thanks for doing that, whoever added it. So we have context of what's rolling out. I saw that the security widget was marked as individual, which just True, that's the plan, but it's not actually merged in yet. So that's why I called out the MRs in draft state. I don't know what the plan is with the MR. It hasn't been, I think, again, I'll probably best to ping Savas, but I think my understanding is that it's in draft state, and I don't know if it's going to be merged. I could ask him if it's okay to have him redo the MR or refactor it to only have the feature flag part of it. So at least the code is guarded and whatever incremental improvements you could add behind the flag. But basically that's where we're at. I think these two widgets are waiting on things. And once the plan is this milestone to have those guard feature flag, widget specific feature flags in master. So my follow-up question is, if those two flags are in this milestone, do we still plan, do we want to push forward and roll out the other widgets globally? Or are we going to do it where we roll them out incrementally in production where it's percent based, or we're just going to flip the global flag? And do we have a strategy for that in terms of testing or getting user feedback, or because it seems like a pretty drastic change, because we're swapping out, how many are there? I think it's, I can't find the
Yeah, several. The last time we talked about, the idea would be to swap everyone which is already ready to be swapped, swap them all at once, but do it only on GitLab project for a while, because those will be providing the most feedback. Like if there's something wrong with it, we'll catch it right away. So that's the first part of the question. The second part, yeah, so I did, that's why I pinged everyone so that we can have an accurate representation of the state in that table. So I'm gonna mention, so you mentioned that the security one is unmerged yet. Is that it?
The security one right now is unmerged. And right now that chain, this MR, I think it's planning to be merged soon. So
Sorry.
yeah, so what it is, the MR contains the version 1 of the security widget plus the flag. So I think that's what they're going for. It's like, you know, whatever implementation they have now that is kind of somewhat complete with the flag in the MR. But I'll encourage Savas, if there is more churn in that MR for other reasons, to just refactor out to have a separate MR just to put the thing behind the flag. So I'll recommend that to him. I think there's ongoing discussion that's active as of a few hours ago. So it's in flux.
Yeah, which brings to another point, which is the rollout of this is going to be a little bit complicated. And I know that we're all, like every owner is trying to put their widget in the best shape, but I feel like we need to elect a responsible for the rollout, like specifically the process of rollout. So I'll ping on Slack, because we don't have a lot of engineers here. So I'll ask who wants to take that task of like rolling it out and making sure that all the, you know, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Make sure that staging errors are handled and all that stuff. But we need a responsibility, a DRI for the rollout. So I'm going to check in and see if we can have an engineer selected for the next week, or at least, so that we can have that starting to move on more decisively. Because I feel like we're constantly checking, are we ready? But somebody needs to be paying exclusive attention to the rollout. And I've been trying to do that, but failing at it miserably, trying to bring some clarity to it. But does that sound like a good idea? Have a DRI for the rollout?
I think so, because an engineer might be more aware of the MRs in flux and what the other engineers are working on. Because I've been
who to ping
sure.
to ask. Okay, fine. I'll take care of that. I'll find, and yeah, keep us posted on the development of that. Fernando, we were meant to open a staging project mimicking the one in production. Did you ever do that?
Oh, thanks for following up. I haven't gotten to it. So I'll add it to my to-do. Thanks for the reminder.
Okay, reminder for the staging, because we need to make sure that the QA test and everything that's already and not breaking to staging. Reminder for the staging project. Cool. Then I guess that's it. Anybody has any other points that are not in the agenda you wanted to voice? Cool. We're getting close. I feel like we're getting close. And once we do turn it on, it's going to be a great day for everyone. But thank you everyone for the call. and I'll see you on